Hello, my name is Rowan, and today I'm reading Grandmother's Lullaby by 52 Bad Stories on Tumblr. This is a story about the relationship between a grandmother and granddaughter. So without further ado, let's begin. When my grandmother died, I bought a bottle of her favourite perfume. She'd worn it every single day I'd known her, and it was near impossible to imagine one without the other. I picked it up as I drove home from the funeral. I'd have to skip a couple of meals that week in order to afford it, but I knew it would be worth it. Throughout the course of the day, my body had been reduced to a dejected numbness, feeling nothing save for the tremble in my lip. It was only when I removed the cap of the ornate glass bottle and breathed in its redolence that I was again able to feel myself. I went home and immediately allowed myself to be swallowed in the heavy down blankets of my bed. Still wearing the stiff black dress, my mind slipped into a dream while my hands cradled the bottle. I could still feel its heavy scent. Its warm embrace was wrapping around my entire body. A faint voice brushed my ear, growing delicately in volume until I looked up to see my grandmother standing over me. Her thin body was draped in thick purple velvet. Her jewel-toned makeup had been painted on perfectly. This was how she was meant to be, not some plastic shell in a tacky pastel satin box. She sang a lullaby, one that I'd heard many times as a child. The words were in a language that I'd never been taught, but I never seemed to have any trouble finding comfort in it. It was a song I could feel in my heart, even though I couldn't understand it. There was something different in her voice, a hint of sadness. Still, she smiled down at me. That was always like her. Even in tough times, she kept on smiling. The tears on my face began to dry, and I began to feel that it would somehow all be okay. I never knew all that much from my family's history. My grandmother had come here many years ago, but she didn't seem to like to talk about it. Whenever I would ask her about where she'd come from, she'd just smile and say, "When you're older, dear." She would always say that, no matter my age. I searched through every atlas and encyclopedia at the library, but there was no sign of such a place. Now that she had passed, I was worried that I'd never learn about my history, that I'd never find my home. My grandmother finished her song, and the room went unnaturally quiet. She smiled sweetly with her ruby lips, and I realized that she would soon have to leave. I found myself feeling like I had when I was a child, begging her to sing it for me just one more time. Only now I couldn't find the words. Her tourmaline eyes glittered through her long eyelashes, and her smile widened as she ran her slender fingers along my cheek. Her touch was warm, and the smell of her perfume embraced my lungs. She turned away and began slowly making her way towards the door, which seemed to open up on its own. I felt a pang in my chest to see her go, but I knew in my heart that she was going home. I could still hear the words to the lullaby in my mind, and for the first time I understood what they meant. When the night is at its darkest, you will be welcomed home with open arms. Before stepping through the doorway, my grandmother turned and smiled at me once more. She blew me a kiss with a grand wave of her arm, and then she was gone, the door closing gently behind her. I woke up in a cold bedroom, my heart still aching. I sat up quickly and stared into the empty open door. The smell of the perfume still hung in the air, and I squeezed the bottle tightly in my hand, only to feel it crumple under the pressure. I looked down to see that the perfume bottle had been replaced with a piece of paper. Carefully, I unfolded the paper as the pace of my heartbeat quickened. It was a map, but not one like I'd ever seen before. There were no words, no rivers, no borders. It was a map of the stars. I followed a dotted line with my finger, finally resting on one single word written in my grandmother's perfect handwriting. Home. I sprung from my bed and ran to the window. In the night sky I could see a single star that sparkled like amethyst among the diamonds. I pulled the mat tightly to my chest and a smile crept across my face. I whispered my goodbyes to my grandmother, in my heart knowing that this was not the end. I felt glad that she had found her way back home and that someday I would find her there. 52 Bad Stories has a Patreon account, which I've linked to below. Consider supporting her because she's a fantastic author. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to us. We upload a new story every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so we look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Goodbye for now.